So thank you, George, so much. I have the honor to work with you and to work with Urban Soils Institute. It's so lovely to be here and to hear all this presentation. So today I will talk about what is the best way to design constructed soil to achieve better phytomanagement outcome. My name is Maha Deeb. I am from Soil and Substrate Group, Institute Land Nature Environmental University of Applied Science of Switzerland, of Western Switzerland, Geneva. I would like to say also this work is in collaboration with Norwegian Geotechnical Institute and University of Lausanne at Lafayette, as also with Macro-Omus company. I will start by talking about what is soil contamination. So just 1 minute, it seems I have a little problem on my screen. Oops. So soil contamination occurs when pollutants in the soil exceed a certain level, leading to degradation or loss of soil function. Soil contamination could be invisible and seem far away, but everybody is affected. So we already know soils, for example, in New York and in New Jersey are contaminated. Sorry to say that. So I will go to ask you, in your opinion, what are the primary source of soil contamination worldwide? What do you think? Could you please write that in the chat or just answer me? What do you think?
Come on, I know you people know it.
You people know it. Come on.
Yes, I know they know it because it's already, Marisa, what you said, it's already talked about it, and we have already Bill talk about that.
Forever, someone said forever chemicals. There are many PFAS. Yep.
Yes.
Yep. People often think about like toxic, like lead and arsenic, which of course is in there. But what about nitrogen? Is nitrogen?
Yes, nitrogen is it's a contaminant. And so
anybody else?
Contaminant, it's because of using fertilizer, we use a lot of nitrogen, and this is really affect our water quality. Yes, what do you think also? We have also some type of immigrant contaminant, such as microplastic now, PFAS, new contaminant, and we have also, so I will say that land contamination can result from anthropogenic activities and events such as manufacturing, mineral extraction, abandonment of mine, national defense activities, waste disposal, illegal dumping, leaking underground storage tanks, floods, pesticides, and fertilizer application. So if I will show you here, actually, data, it's a data collection from Europe, we can see that the majority of contamination is coming from land use or waste disposal. So when Marisa talked about composting and we come back to the zero waste, we need to stop filling our landfill with this type of waste. And if we can reuse this type of waste, it will have high potential. So around more than 38% from contamination or land contamination could come from our wastelands or landfill. Of course, there's other type of resource of contamination, could be like fertilizer, as I said, other pesticide, etc., and industrial impact. So human health can be influenced directly by exposure to physical, chemical, and biological contaminant, or indirectly by transfer of contaminant into the food chain. You can imagine how contamination could affect also plants, animals, communities, there's behavior. In general, the good news is soil has the potential to filter and buffer contaminants, reducing their negative effects. However, this capacity is unfortunately limited. So do you have an idea of how soil contamination is managed in the United States? You can say yes or no, or what do you imagine, how we manage soil contamination in the United States? Do you have an idea? Could you please write that in the chat? I cannot see it.
Put it in the chat.
My guess is that we don't.
Okay, so soil contamination, I will go with these figures. Soil contamination in the United States is managed using a risk-based decision-making process. In other words, we don't ask how much soil contamination can be cleaned, and instead we ask how much contamination can safely stay in place. So I will show this figure. This figure actually shows you the risk of contamination from low to high. In general, when a pollutant is present in the soil matrix, it could be fixed into organic matter, oxides, or clay. It is not readily available to plant and human, resulting low risk. So that we have the contaminant, but soil aggregation will do the job, and then the contaminant is not available. If the contaminant is present in the soil matrix but is bioaccessible, we face a moderate risk. Now, we can transfer this contaminant by the food chain. However, if the pollutant is present in the soil water, we face a major risk since it's directly accessible to plants and infiltrate in our drinking water. So when managing contaminated lands, our primary concern is to minimize the risk of contamination and restore the natural filtering ability of soil. So if I can say how effectively is soil contamination addressed on a global scale, I will go with, to treat the soil contamination, we can do different type insights. In general, we use bioremediation, and here we count on the plants and their ability, plants and microorganism, associated microorganism in the rhizosphere, and their ability to degrade, stabilize, or extract the contamination from the soil. Or we can treat the contamination outside the city by outside the site, sorry. After excavation of these materials, we will take these materials, fill our landfill with it, then we do a thermic and physical, chemical, biological treatment, and in some cases there's no hope, so we do no treatment. So I will talk about Europe. Approximately 1/3 of management approach for contaminated soil still use traditional methods, such as excavation and off-site disposal. In the United States, actually, we have more than 50% who still use traditional methods, such as excavation. So please tell me what you encourage in the chat also. What do you think it's better for us to use the treatment in the site and out the site, and why? I'll check the chat. What you encourage, what you like more. It's important. So I cannot see your answer, but I will go with to tell you that the treatment in the sites, of course, will be beneficial, but in some cases we cannot do the treatment in the sites. We cannot solve soil contamination in the sites in some cases, but still have specific advantage and a huge quantity of advantages. For example, we can treat a large area. We have low land pressure. We can improve when we do phytoremediation or bioremediation, we can improve the soil quality over time. And of course, when you have a plant in such type of soil, you see it here and baggy ground, it's more beautiful, and it's somehow more acceptable from social opinion. And finally, it's low cost. But when we check about the treatment out of the site, here we cannot treat all, because sometimes the plant cannot grow, have specific problems, so we cannot treat a huge area. We can treat only or find a treatment for a small surface area. And of course, we do that where there is heavy pollution or heavy contamination. And at the same time, this will offer high land pressure, where we check the soil, we leave the soil completely or the land completely degraded there, so nothing to do with it. And we have a huge gas emission going with greenhouse gas emission going with this type of a treatment. Of course, it costs us a lot of money. So could you please write, why hasn't, in your opinion, of course, why hasn't phytoremediation been widely implemented yet? What do you think? Why, if it's that cool, phytoremediation and bioremediation, what are the problems we could face with it? I'll check the chat. George, I cannot see the chat. Could you please tell me what's it's written, if there's any answers?
Yeah, I don't, too many unknowns, labor costs for need to harvest crops and salvage metals, limited effectiveness, moves the
Good,
problem,
nice,
moves
yes.
the problem where to dump the plants, expensive.
Wonderful, yeah. Yes.
Yes.
So I will not go with expensive, but yeah, in some cases, yes, it depends the type of contamination. So it's very good, actually, you answer completely. So actually, the limitation will be with soil quality. When soil is contaminated in general, it have bad quality because we already affect the microorganism in the soil, the life in the soil, and the nutrient availability of nutrient in the soil. In addition, soil input. I don't know if I mentioned, part of soil contamination is coming from fertilizer and chemical fertilizer. So if we will use fertilizer to improve plant, to allow plant to grow, we still have a problem because we add new type of contamination to the soil. In addition, the depth of the treatment. Rhizosphere cannot reach all the type of contamination. Actually, it depends where the contamination is located. In addition, we here talk about seasonal effect. If there's any hydrological condition problems, we talk about phytotoxicity. Plants in some cases could not grow at all in specific type of contamination. And in addition, there's an unknown effect of biodegradation of some pollutant, whereas some pollutant could, after decomposition, be more risk for human health than before decomposition. In addition, the time, it takes a lot of time to do, of course, some parts, sometimes it takes some just few months when we talk about fixation, because here we talk about improve the soil quality or soil structure quality to fix this type of contamination. But when we talk about extraction, it's take around 1,000 years. And there's also risk of invasive plant. There's only one plant could live now in such area. And because of that, we'll talk about how we improve actually phytoremediation or bioremediation effort. So from here, we suggest combine constructed soil with phytomanagement to overcome this limitation or some of this limitation. So let me go through this. Firstly, I will define what is constructed soil. So constructed soil, actually, it's application of basic knowledge of soil biogenesis process to create a soil. The soil made by a human, it's made by us. This soil can contain artifacts, including waste materials. So I can use here semi-natural materials such as sediment, and this is what we did with the Clean Soil Bank in New York, which are intentionally shaped in a variety of layers to provide a sustainable environmental for vegetation growth and other specific functions such as purification, degradation, fixation of contamination. In addition, the design soils need to a full understanding of the climate condition and the surrounding area to allow some modification of the topography to maximize the potential of a plant growth and soil function. These constructed soils already proved their potential for variety of land use. So here I will go through every case of limitation, every limitation, and I will show you how constructed soil could be a solution to allow better phytoremediation outcome. So I will start by constructed soil for urban farming. Here, again, we come back to the Clean Soil Bank, and Urban Soils Institute actually is so familiar with this. So in this case, we use available material to build a raised bed. This is isolated from the surrounding landscape. Here, urban agriculture can be safely practiced here as contamination level have been tested already. We know this is the sediment we use. We know the compost we use. Because of that, I'm encouraging a lot, Marissa. We should really encourage this composting practice, because we know this type of amendment. We know we tested. We know they are clean, and we know they are now. We have a clean food, and of course to eat. And this play a major role in food security also, if we can go through that. But here, let's talk about more larger scale. When we talk about land is highly contaminated site, not only about urban farming. So if the pollutants are present, for example, in the top layer of the soil, And the limitation is low soil fertility, make it difficult for a plant to grow. In such case, it's recommended to add adapted organic waste amendment based on contamination type, such as, for example, bone meal and compost. Bone meal is rich of phosphate. Sometimes fish waste actually is rich also of phosphate. Compost, which is rich of organic material. This amendment can help in fixing heavy metal present in the soil and improve its pH level, because if with low pH in general, a lot of heavy metals can be accessible actually. For instance, to enhance hydrocarbon decomposition, if we talk about petroleum contamination, in this case, we will look for amendment, for instance, rich of nitrogen. And here we can go to the uranium, the bill of presentation compost. We know they are rich of nitrogen, and we need to improve the carbon because total petroleum hydrocarbon rich in carbon, and we need to make the bacteria do the job for us. So we need to decompose this total petroleum hydrocarbon. So let's go with the depths of the treatment zone. I said already that when we do constructed technosoil, we manipulate the layer of the soil. So if the contamination, which is here in the red colors, in the deep horizon and the root system cannot achieve or reach this contamination, actually we can reverse the horizon. And we come back to the case number 1, because when we use horizon B as a horizon in the top, we will have a specific problem such as soil quality. And here we need to re-amendment the soil, of course, with different type of waste, because of course, waste and local available waste are less expensive than broad natural soils. And why I put sunflowers also as an example, because sunflower is one of the plants we use for phytoremediation, actually. It's effective plant. Grasses also could be an effective plant. So here you see the problem is, for example, because George already asked about that, it's nitrogen contamination. The problem when nutrient contamination is go so easily with the water, so we come with a high risk now, because it's so accessible for the plant, they will go directly to our drinking water, to our ocean or aquatic water, outside actually. So we lose so fast the control. So what we do when we create the soil in this case, we will manipulate or we collect all this water. So we will add drainage horizon here, and then this water should go with a pipe and to collect it. And then after that, we re-watering the plants with the contaminated water, because here the contaminated water is rich with nitrogen, and nitrogen in general is used for, of course, nitrogen is used as a fertilizer for the plant, but keep in mind, this soil is so rich of nitrogen if we talk about contamination of nitrogen. So in this case, what we will do also, we will add something to encourage, it's opposite of what we talk about total petroleum hydrocarbon, to encourage the ratio of carbon nitrogen to come back to the base. So we'll go with a mulch, where they are rich of carbon and cellulose, but they are not rich of nitrogen, which will help also the bacteria to do the job and the plant. So here I will show you an example of phytotoxicity. This example, I think it's in China, this publication. So you can see here both cases. So what they do, we have a contaminated land, then they try to stabilize the horizon. And again, this applies to so large scales. So they try to stabilize the contamination, and then they brought clean soil at the top. And here, for example, in my opinion, we can directly go to constructed soil. So we can go, for example, if I can imagine this situation in New York, we can go to the sediment, which we know they are clean, and we mix it with the compost, and we create a soil, and then we do some plantation directly there. And as they are clean, there's no phytotoxicity, and the plant will grow so easily. If we go here with the other example, we can see they didn't find a way. So they extract completely the contamination soils, and they brought clean soils. Again, we can do that with the constructed soil, as I defined that before. But you will see here the experience from France, actually. It's Geoffroy works. So you can see in some cases, when we have no hope, okay, we will take this soils, we treat it outside. After doing thermic or any biological chemical treatment in the soil. We killed the life in the soils. The soil are just a waste and there's no other hope. In this case, what they try in France to reuse these soils as a constructed soils. So, and they put this in layers, which I'm talking about here. And here, for example, you can see, for example, the first horizon, they use a compost to improve the organic materials, the soil quality, and then they use the soil after treatment. They use paper mills as a horizon to ensure the infiltration, all the water infiltration, all the water go outside should be observed and should be clean. And what I like about this experience more than all the other experience, we know after, because this experience done from 2007 and to the moment they are keep monitoring the site and they are now full of life and full of biodiversity, etc. So you can even see, which is it's important step actually when we do phytoremediation or when we do any remediation to the site, to monitoring the site quality over time. So let's go with this example. Here we don't have a hub. The soil is highly contaminated and we need to take this soil outside the city to do excavation for this site. But even we did excavation, the soil we could not offer, we don't have the ability to treat the soil. So in this example, you see what we do complete isolation. So we used a geomembrane because there's nothing we can do now. And we hope in the future, if there's something we can do, we can come back and to this geomembrane, under this geomembrane, and do the remediation. And as we cannot do anything now, the excavation of this material, it's not worth it. We just contaminate our landfill. So what we will do, we'll isolate this material to assure there's no NAP contamination, there's no risk. Sorry for this. And we will do a geomembrane, and then we will use a constructed soil. And here's this actually this experiment from microMS. So you see, for example, the application of the geomembrane. Then you can see the constructed soil, which is actually part of available waste materials, such as, again, here it was demolition waste mixed with compost and the watering. And let's see the site 2 years later. So now I would like to see, what do you think? Should we encourage such application? Do you agree? This is what could be that constructed technosols could have the potential to overcome phytoremediation limits. So in the future, we have more application of phytoremediation.
Let's see what was it. Oh. That's a great question. We could continue in with the discussion because that's really encapsulates everything you've been talking about. If anyone, over time, the membrane might leak. Someone said, Irene said, over time, the membrane might leak.
The geomembrane?
Yeah.
No, don't worry about that. No, it's really done in a way it couldn't leak. Very well studied, but it's the problem here, for instance, for me, it will not, of course, it will not decompose. But the idea here to come back to the site in the future, so the sites will need to be documented, and after that we can come back to it. So yes, it's one of the questions, but no, remember what I said at the beginning, what we do in the United States and what we do in the majority of the parts of the world, it's to limit the risk. So for us, the contamination is still there, but what we did is completely limited the risk, because here we don't need this to leach to our water or to affect human health by exposure, etc. I will just conclude by saying there are several advantages of constructed soil. Not only improves the phytoremediation technique, but also increased use of constructed soil will lead to decrease in landfill demand. Waste disposal and treatment is a dominant key source of soil contamination. As I said, it's 38% in Europe, followed by industrial and commercial activity, which are 34%. Thus, reposting both organic and anorganic waste to create constructed soil is particularly applying solution in contaminated sites, as it allows overcome phytotechnology limitation and decrease waste disposal. The high organic content from agriculture and urban waste is beneficial for reducing the need for fertilizer, which are another resource of contamination, which save money and improve soils, air, and water quality. So thank you so much for your attention. Do not hesitate to ask questions.